You're listening to Let's Talk Cuyahoga, a podcast that explores county initiatives and pulls back the curtain to reveal the work and the people who are driving Cuyahoga County forward. For many residents, one of the most interesting agencies in Cuyahoga County is the Medical Examiner's Office. They're constantly asked the question, is there any way I can find out more about forensics investigations? Joining me with an answer to that question and some insight into an extremely popular program provided by the ME's office is Christopher Harris, External Affairs Manager and the host of the Citizens Academy. Welcome.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Well, we're excited to talk to you about this program. Now, first of all, just the Medical Examiner's Office in general, responsible for the investigation of violent, suspicious, unexpected deaths, and that's serious stuff. So does it surprise you that you've got so many people kind of clamoring to get an inside look at that?
In a lot of ways it does. One of my duties at the office is to handle our community outreach. So I do a lot of tours for high school students, college students, and there seems to be this interest about forensic science and true crime. But it really goes beyond just the school. It goes beyond education. So the public has this fascination with, well, what goes on at the office? What's an autopsy like? They watch all these shows on TV. And when they come to our office, I think they're pleasantly surprised about how much work goes into just one single case. And that's what I like to sort of put out there to the public and educate them on.
Because it's not like the TV show.
It is not like the TV shows.
So it must have been that, discovery of that intense interest that forced you to look at other ways to reach the community about that and the creation of the Citizens Academy. So tell me how that went.
So Citizens Academies typically are in law enforcement agencies. And I had the opportunity to participate in the FBI Citizens Academy, which I thought was fabulous. And I said, we should have something like that at our office. We have all these programs for students, right? High school and college students, but we really didn't have anything for the public. And there was this perception that the public really doesn't have an idea of all the work that goes into our agency. So that's why I actually created this program, the Citizens Academy, to educate the public, and I was just blown away by the response.
Yeah, it's really popular. How often is it offered?
So we offer it 2 times a year. There's a spring academy and a fall academy. The spring academy is usually around April or May, and the fall academy, September, October.
Okay. And there was a little time off, during the COVID days. So you open up the application process for the current session. What was the response?
So the most recent session, which we are currently in, we had over 150 applications, which is the most that we've received. When we first started the academy in 2019, we averaged about 100 applications during that initial run. And it just kept growing pretty much after that. One of the big changes that we had from our first academy is we wanted to have seats designated for Cuyahoga County employees because we received so many applications from county employees. We thought, hey, we should increase our capacity and have some seats just for our county employees.
Well, and you've got 30 people who get to participate. What can they expect, if you are one of the lucky individuals who get selected during this application process?
What you can expect is basically to learn something every week. That's one of the things that I love most about my job is I'm always learning. And I think what Academy participants will also do is get a glimpse of what it feels like to just learn something they had no idea of. So you're going to learn about DNA, toxicology, death investigation, and actually, if you want, you can view a demonstration autopsy.
I was curious about that because, you mentioned earlier people want to know what happens in an autopsy, but do they really? I mean, once it gets down to it, what kind of response do you get from the participants in the Citizen Academy when they actually have the opportunity to do that?
I'd say about 80% of the selected participants are just all for it. Like, I can't wait. I want to get right up in there and see what's happening. Then we have about 20% that they're on the fence. And what we try to do is to just provide as much education as we can so they can make the best decision for themselves. We don't want to force anyone to participate in something that they're not comfortable with, but also this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. So you can come to the autopsy, and if it's not for you, you certainly can leave.
Well, and, you have to be in a respectful space because you're not doing this on like some CPR dummy. This is an actual autopsy.
Yes, this is an actual autopsy. A lot of times people will ask questions, well, what type of cases get selected for an autopsy? So we only do demonstration autopsies on cases that we label as appropriate. So no children, no homicides, no suspicious deaths. Typically something that might be an accident or a natural case.
I guess we've talked a lot about how residents and participants feel about it, but how do the other people in your office feel about it?
The office has been more than supportive with this initiative. I really want to just take a moment and thank everyone at the office, from all of our speakers, that's doctors, supervisors, scientists, and then also my partner, Brooke Potts. She's a trace evidence scientist, but she helps me run this program. And I really couldn't do it without the support of Dr. Gilson, our medical examiner, who really just allowed me the freedom and gave me trust to create this program and really run with it.
Well, let's be clear. The Citizens Academy doesn't give you a degree or a medical certification or anything. It's just to satisfy people's interest in these kinds of investigation. But it must be really gratifying to have something like that you've created that is so widely popular.
It really is gratifying. I think some of the best feedback to come out of the Academy are those moments when I hear someone say, wow, I'm actually thinking about a career change. Now, this is not going to give you a job at our office or anything like that. Mm-hmm. However, it may inspire you to, go back to school and learn about forensic science or just take another route with your career. And when someone says that, yeah, that's really gratifying.
Well, when we come back, we're going to talk with some participants about their experience in the Citizens Academy in this session. Really looking forward to that. And just want to thank you for creating it, for continuing it, because it's really making a difference for a lot of people.
Well, thank you, and we hope to have it around for a long time.
You're listening to Let's Talk Cuyahoga.
The Cuyahoga County Medical Examiner's Office has a parentage and identification department. The laboratory offers DNA testing using the latest technology to help with paternity, maternity, and other relationship identification, child support and custody cases, adoption, immigration, and insurance claims. Find out more about the process and procedure at cuyahogacounty.us/podcast.
You're listening to Let's Talk Cuyahoga. We're in the Cuyahoga County Medical Examiner's offices with some of the participants from the latest Citizens Academy. What's your name and where are you from, please?
I am Kiki Compau. I am from Parma, Ohio, and I actually work for the county executive's office.
Wonderful. So why did you decide to sign up for Citizens Academy? Is it something you'd been wanting to do for a long time?
No, I saw it advertised in Armin Budish's In the Know, and I actually saw one of my friends with a certificate, and I was like, well, why is he getting a certificate? And when I read it, I was like, I want to do this because I want to know what happens after somebody passes away. My son asked me, Mom, why do you want to do that? And I was like, it's part of life. I want to know what happens from the time this person leaves this earth to the time he's laid to rest. If it's suspicious, I want to know how they find that out. How do they figure this out? What are the details, behind all this?
Well, tonight is graduation night, and you've had a chance to experience this whole curriculum. So do you feel like you got some answers to your questions?
Very much so. I cannot believe, the things that I have learned, how detail-oriented everything has to be, because if they make one mistake, it could cost somebody else their life. If this happened because of a crime, and they make a mistake, that person who committed it could either walk away free and to commit again, or someone could be sent to prison wrongfully. It affects a lot. And just so the family has that closure, for instance, if somebody was to pass away in their sleep, why, what happened? They're young, what happened? I would like to know if that happened to one of my loved ones. So the things that they do here, it brings closure to the family. And that's very important to me.
You said your son was like, why would you want to do this? Were you nervous at the beginning?
Absolutely not. I was excited. I love learning. And I love learning weird things, so it's been a really great experience here.
As you look back on it, what surprised you, or what memorable moment can you share with us?
Actually, it was during the autopsy. I did not realize how much internal organs they take out. I thought it was just like maybe the heart, the lungs, the center stuff. I didn't realize that they went all the way from the tongue to the rectum. All of it comes out. And I wasn't, freaked out or grossed out or anything. I was able to stand there and watch what they did to determine how this person passed away. And it was amazing.
My name is Cynthia Morrow. I am originally from Ohio, Parma. I work at Metro Health's Office of Opioid Safety.
Wonderful. Well, I'm sure that you have seen, some of the issues that have gone on with the opioid epidemic and how that has impacted the work here at the Medical Examiner's Office. Is that part of the reason that you wanted to sign up for Citizens Academy?
I am a registered nurse, and I spent many, many years working in Metro Health's emergency department on night shift. So I saw the very beginning of the opioid epidemic towards the end of my nursing career at Metro. But I kind of stumbled on the opioid epidemic when I was finishing up my degree and volunteered with Project Dawn, which is a part of the Office of Opioid Safety. And forensic has always been something that fascinated me.
It's graduation night. You've had a chance to experience the whole curriculum. What are you going to take away from this experience?
Everything. This was phenomenal. It was a lot of hands-on that just people, I guess people don't realize all of the components to the medical examiner's office. There's a lot that goes into investigating.
Because they don't put that in
No.
Law and Order,
No.
Medical Examiner, whatever
No.
they have, the TV shows that people watch. They don't see everything that goes into an investigation.
No, there's a lot that goes into it. And I will have to say, kudos to this whole department, every single person. You thought you couldn't find a nicer person, and each time that you came, week after week, everybody was, it just seemed like, just phenomenal is the word that comes to mind for me, because everybody was extremely wonderful, knowledgeable, willing to share everything and anything.
Do you have like a memorable moment, or was there something that really surprised you that you learned?
The autopsy was more in-depth than I had anticipated. Wasn't what I had pictured in my head as far as the autopsy goes. And all the pieces, parts that goes, I don't want to sound too terrible in saying that, but everything that surrounds doing an autopsy on somebody, and the care that they do take in doing an autopsy on an individual, that's, I guess, something I will always remember. And
you've got experience in nursing, so you've been exposed to, a lot of the physical things that go on with this kind of work. But is this something that you would recommend to a friend?
If anybody has a chance, I would say, please sign up and come see it if this is something you would be interested in, because it is truly, truly amazing. And the people are awesome here.
For anyone who's asked, how can I learn more about forensics or the death investigations I see or hear about in true crime stories, the answer is the Citizens Academy, a groundbreaking program and free service of Cuyahoga County and the Medical Examiner's Office. When we come back, we'll chat with the medical examiner himself, Dr. Thomas Gilson, about how important it is to invite residents into this world and some of the challenges we're facing in Cuyahoga County. You're listening to Let's Talk Cuyahoga.
Project Dawn is an opioid overdose education and naloxone distribution program. Administered by Metro Health, Project Dawn provides free education for people who know someone potentially at risk for opioid overdose. Learn the signs and symptoms of an opioid overdose and how to respond using naloxone as an antidote. Find out more about Project Dawn at cuyahogacounty.us/podcast.
Welcome back. Dr. Thomas Gilson joins us now, medical examiner of Cuyahoga County. Thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you for coming by.
Let's Talk Cuyahoga is all about county initiatives that residents maybe aren't aware exist and pulling back the curtain to reveal the people who make those initiatives work. I'm sure in your time as medical examiner, you've had a lot of people they find out what you do and they're very curious about your department.
Forensics is interesting to a lot of people. I think there's a segment of the population who don't want to know anything, and then there's another group who are kind of very curious what happens here. And I think they get their curiosity and misinformation from television, and we thought maybe we could give them some genuine, real information. So that was the genesis of the Citizens Academy.
Well, knowing that people you met were curious, and over the course of your career, as you said, people have that intense curiosity about forensics and crime scene investigation. So it seems like Citizens Academy would be a no-brainer. But it's really unique. As you talk to colleagues across the country, when they hear about the program, I'm sure it is in other places, but for a lot of people, it's a really unique idea and a way of providing a public service to residents.
To the best of my knowledge, Dawn, this is the only jurisdiction that has a Citizens Academy attached to a medical examiner's office. That may have changed. I know I talked to one colleague in Florida who was thinking of starting one up based on kind of a conversation we had. But no, I have to give Chris Harris a lot of credit. He approached me with the idea. I think law enforcement was kind of more typically the folks who would do citizens academies, and I don't know why it didn't occur to me before, and it doesn't really seem like it is that common across the country in spite of the big interest.
But it's something that you can't take it lightly. You're letting residents into this space that really is kind of hallowed ground, and the work that you do is so serious and important. What kinds of considerations did you have?
I do kind of like to make the agency available to the public. The public are our bosses. They're the people who pay the bills, and I think it's helpful for them to get an exposure to see, what do they really support here. I think there are things that are, appropriate for the public to see and things that aren't appropriate. And I think we try to strike that balance between the two. The other thing I think, that always worries me is kind of, the kind of like false bravado of, I want to see what I can tolerate on the part of, a participant. I just, I don't come to work to kind of test my mettle as to what I can, see and not see. I think, thankfully we haven't really had a lot of, folks. It's a big commitment of time, I think, and I think, we've gotten a very interested group of people. And one of the things I really like about the Citizens Academy is anybody, I think, who gets a tour of this agency really develops an understanding that, boy, there's just a lot more that goes on here than I ever thought of between, the death investigation process, the crime laboratory. What do we do with information once we get it? Because, I think one of the real missions we've tried to undertake is to kind of be a participant in the public health, the health of our community, which I feel very passionately about, and I don't think people necessarily see that dimension of what we can do.
As you mentioned, just things that you've seen, in the time that you've been in the medical examiner's office. There's the horrifying spike in opioid deaths, a pandemic. You've seen some devastation due to gun violence in Cuyahoga County. So I'm sure there are days where you've dealt with those things and more. And I was just wondering what you feel like the biggest challenges right now in your office.
Boy, I would have to be honest and say, that there isn't like any one thing. The health of a community ties to a lot of different things. And I think that the violence, or, the unnatural deaths, I should say, so that would be our accident, homicide, suicide, are kind of, canaries in the mine for other things that potentially you need to look at. So when we saw, spikes in overdoses and saw transitions from prescription medication to illegal opioids, the heroin and then the fentanyl, they're all different problems. They all need different responses. The gun violence, I think, is really very disturbing, and it definitely, has a very distinct impact, skewed towards communities of color that, what do you do to address gun violence? And I kind of think, there are knee-jerk responses that aren't really thoughtful. And then there are things that an office like this can do to sort of provide data to start to frame questions better. And that's what we did with the opioid crisis, too. Part of the real acceptance to things like naloxone or fentanyl test strips came out of data that I like to think, at least this agency contributed a significant amount of understanding towards, that these are going to be things that are going to potentially work. And I hope that that's kind of, we started to kind of scratch the surface on gun violence. We'll see something like that again, Here's kind of, answers that are going to be more meaningful because there's data behind them.
Well, thank you so much again, and for opening your office up for this very unique program. Cuyahoga County residents are really getting a lot out of it. So
it's our honor to serve them, and I hope that that's kind of a message that people take away too. They make this, agency possible, and we take the responsibility to make it the best agency we can. And I'm going to brag on the agency. I would put it up against any agency like this in the rest of the country, and I don't think we'd come out on the short end of that comparison.
You can find out more about our work in the Medical Examiner's Office and the Citizens Academy program by visiting cuyahogacounty.us/podcast. Let's Talk Cuyahoga is a podcast that explores Cuyahoga County initiatives and the people who make them happen. It's produced by the Cuyahoga County Communications and Multimedia teams. Please subscribe on your favorite podcast platform, and then you won't miss our next episode. If you have any questions or comments about this podcast, or maybe a topic you'd like us to take on in a future episode, please email communications@cuyahogacounty.us. Let's Talk Cuyahoga.